The New York Rangers have definitely had a pretty rough start to this regular season, as offensively they have had some massive struggles, and a part of that, not the only reason, but a part of that, of course, has been a factor in the Rangers having missed one of their top centermen and one of their top and most important forwards in Vincent Trocheck for quite some time, as he, of course, did get injured in the second game of this season. So in today's video, we got an update to take a look at involving the injury situation with Trocheck and also Urho Vaakanainen, and we're going to discuss and talk a bit about Yaroslav Melash, one of the New York Rangers prospects from the AHL, got the call-up and ended up getting to make his NHL debut Friday night against the Detroit Red Wings as well. So let's get right into it here, and we're going to start off with the Yaroslav Melash news, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, he got to make his NHL debut Friday, and we're going to take a look at a couple interesting quotes from Yaroslav as well, but, this is an interesting prospect. He doesn't get talked about a lot there, and, he may not be some super flashy kind of high-end, first or second round pick, but this is, I think, a pretty good and solid prospect. He may not ever become some, top 6 star winger at the NHL level, but this is a prospect that definitely seems like he could end up being, one day a very good forward in a bottom 6 role, more than likely. He stands at about 6'4", 6'5". He's over 200 pounds. He, former 5th round pick. He, of course, is a wing prospect, like I said. And, so far this season, as a 22-year-old in the AHL, before getting the call-up, ended up having 9 games played and 5 points with the Wolfpack. So not bad at all. Had a pretty good start down there. Is still only 22 years old as well. So it's not like he's some, 24, 25-year-old guy. He's still 22. Does not turn 23 until next July. So he's very young still. And although he's not like 6'7", 6'8", he is still another one of those kind of many prospects that the Rangers have taken in the mid to later rounds that are these, kind of bigger 6'4" to like 6'8" kind of prospects. They've taken numerous amount of guys like that. Melash, of course, Edstrom, Rempe. This past draft, we saw guys like Sean Barnhill get taken there. He's a pretty big defenseman. Also another kind of shutdown guy that I can't remember off the top of my head. So they've definitely, of course, liked their kind of bigger prospects. Nathan Aspinall, who's tearing things up in the OHL, is another example of that. So they've definitely enjoyed kind of drafting their bigger prospects over the last kind of, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's been now. So it's kind of nice to see some of them making an impact like Edstrom and Rempe. And, of course, a guy like Melash is the next one to do it. We'll see how things go, whether or not he, stays up for a while or gets sent back down or plays another couple games. We'll have to wait and see, but of course, I think right now it's just nice to see at least a prospect, getting an opportunity. Obviously, a guy like Othman was previously up with the Rangers. He ended up, being healthy scratch for quite a while there, only featured in 1 game, so he got sent back down, which wasn't too surprising because you can't have a prospect like Othman just sitting there healthy scratch for too long. So I think it was a good idea to kind of switch things up there, send down Othman, let him go back down there and play in the AHL, and then call a prospect like Melash, who, had a solid season with the Wolfpack last season there. Maybe his kind of style fits, decently into a bottom 6 role possibly. And obviously they seem to like him a decent amount there, at least to put him in over someone like an Edstrom. So I think it's just kind of nice to see the Rangers give an opportunity to a young guy there who maybe has a bit of potential there to become a pretty impactful guy for this team one day. And a very cool thing to note as well is the fact that back on Tuesday night, during that game at MSG, during an intermission, Yaroslav Melash did get to meet his childhood idol, being Jaromir Jagr. So, of course, him being born in Czechia, Czech Republic, his idol growing up, of course, must have been a guy like Jagr, who is a hockey legend. So, of course, him getting to meet him during intermission there, I'm sure was pretty cool. Next, we're going to take a look at some quotes here from Yaroslav Melash that were posted on X by Molly Walker. So she went on to say, New York Rangers Yaroslav Melash parents are traveling all the way from the Czech Republic to be at tonight's game in Detroit. On his emotions going into his debut, quote, I don't even know what to say. It's unbelievable. I did not expect it. It's just like I try to put everything on the line every game, and now I'm here. Looking around at the guys, I'm in a locker room with, it's just, I can't express it. So he's clearly very excited, ecstatic that he got to make his NHL debut. And of course, it was just, taking the spot of Adam Edstrom on that fourth line. So it wasn't some massive role, but it still is nice, to see these guys like prospects, getting some opportunities at the NHL level, even if it isn't in the absolute kind of biggest roles. Next, Molly Walker goes on to say, New York Rangers Yaroslav Melash was on the phone with his girlfriend when assistant general manager Ryan Martin called him with the news. Quote, I started shaking a little bit, but no, it's super exciting. I called my family right away. So yeah, I was really pumped. And next up here, we've got one more quote to take a look at before we move on to the injury news about Trocheck and Urho Vaakanainen. But Mike Sullivan, the head coach, went on to say about Adam Edstrom being the odd man out for the game there, of course, being replaced by Yaroslav Melash. And he went on to say, quote, the biggest thing with Eddie is he's dealing with some bumps and bruises right now. And I just think, given the circumstance that we're in, might give Eddie an opportunity to recover. But also, a guy like Yarrow that's played extremely well in Hartford will give him an opportunity to see if he can help us. And I think that makes sense. I mean, especially if Edstrom is a little banged up right now, has a few little kind of minor things to deal with. Give him a game or two off and give an opportunity to a guy like Yaroslav Melash, to me, makes a lot of sense. I don't think this is a player that's going to be much worse, if anything at all, really. I think Yarrow is a pretty talented player, of course, played a few seasons at, Providence College there, of course, had a lot of experience playing over in Europe, although not at the pro level, and now has, of course, a full season down there with the Hartford Wolfpack last season. Had a pretty good start so far in this one. So I think why not? Give him an opportunity there. Worst case, he ends up playing like 5 or 6 minutes, I guess, and he doesn't have much of an impact. Best case, he ends up, playing like 11 or 12 maybe, and he ends up having a really good performance and has a good impact. Like, I don't really think there's much that you can lose from giving an opportunity here and, giving Edstrom a little bit of a breather. So overall, this move is more than fine for me, and I think makes a lot of sense. And next up here, let's take a look at the news involving Vincent Trocheck and Urho Vaakanainen, which there's not some kind of concrete news here stating an exact kind of return date for either of them, but we do know that during Thursday's practice, November 6th, Trocheck was wearing a non-contact jersey, but then on the 7th of November, so Friday, the same day as the Detroit game, there was Trocheck being seen on the ice there practicing without that non-contact jersey. So that is a good sign there that from one day to the next, he was, taking off, I guess, that non-contact jersey, but it was reported that maybe that's just because it was an optional skate, so maybe that's the reason. But either way, maybe there is a bit of a change there, of course, and it does seem like he's, starting to get kind of back in gear here and starting to come a little kind of closer to returning, as of course, it was reported November 6th that he was, of course, going to be joining the Rangers on the trip to Detroit. So that does seem like a pretty good sign there, of course. And then also with Urho Vaakanainen, he was back to practicing on Friday, but of course didn't end up playing in that game. So it does seem like both of them are starting to come back in the right direction there. We'll see how much longer they're out for, but it is a positive sign there to at least see Trocheck, making the trip there to Detroit, practicing with the team there, maybe taking off that, non-contact jersey, which, of course, is a good thing to see, as the Rangers are definitely, lacking a guy like this. I mean, he may not be the ultimate reason on kind of, why this Rangers team is, of course, right now, one of the worst scoring teams in the entire NHL, but he definitely is a part of that. I mean, losing your, top two centermen, one of them, is definitely going to be a loss. So I think with a team that already doesn't have the absolute kind of strongest forward core, losing a one-year top forward just like that, especially a centerman, will definitely be, of course, a pretty major loss. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post a video about the New York Rangers every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on Yaroslav Melash's, NHL debut? What are your thoughts on Trocheck and Vaakanainen possibly coming back somewhat soon? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.